Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining William Steele True Crime. Today, we have a very, very special guest. Once again, Ignacio Esteban, retired ATF agent. He's worked with the Justice Department for many years, recently retired, written over 50 books, 52 books.
Yeah.
We are here to we're here to discuss an outrageous case that just is unfolding on the news today. It's been talked about in the media loosely for the last several months. Evidently, President Biden saw fit to release a mass murderer into Putin's hands, merchant of death, Viktor Bout. Now, Ignacio has written a book about him, and this book was very, very foretelling about what was going to happen if this occurred. And he's going to join us today. He's going to read an excerpt from his book, and he's going to tell you some inside things you might not be aware of. So, one of the most dangerous people on the planet was released today in exchange for Brittany Griner, a disgraced drug trafficking basketball player who got caught smuggling hashish into Russia when she went to play a game. She was in the Olympics. She was very well known, but she took a knee during the playing of the National Anthem in the United States. She's disgraced her country. She's been arrested. And I will tell you this as somebody who was incarcerated and over sentenced for a nonviolent crime, in my opinion, 18 years for nonviolent crime. So I'm speaking from somebody who knows. And during the COVID pandemic, public officials who had the authority would not release me a few months early to help save my life. So here I am in my new life trying to tell these stories. So as a person with that background, I will say I'm happy that she's released. I think 9 years is excessive for what she did. However, she knew the laws of the country she was going into. She knew it was illegal. She was briefed on it before. The State Department advisories about it all the time, and certainly the people she worked for advised her of the laws going into these various countries. So though we're happy for her and her loved ones, why was Paul Whelan left behind? He's an American hero, former Marine. He had $80,000 stolen from him at the airport by customs officials. And then when he reported that and complained about that, he got hit with espionage charges. So why is he still, this man was set up and framed as being an American asset. Well, who's the real American asset? Did Viktor Bout, as is rumored, make a deal to flip and become a CIA or intelligence asset against Putin? We don't know, but we're here to discuss this with Ignacio. Ignacio is an expert on these matters, and I'm very, very grateful that he's humbled me by being on my show. And thank you for coming on, Ignacio.
William, thanks for having me, man. That's pretty accurate, and what happened there, shocking. And I had woke up this morning, and we were messaging each other, and you let me know, and I didn't hear the news until I heard from you, and you sent me the link, started looking into it. I couldn't believe it. I never thought the President Biden would make this kind of decision, knowing the background, how hard it was to catch Viktor Bout. It took months. He was living in the shadows. He is the merchant of death. If you ever see Lord of War, Nicolas Cage plays, loosely Viktor Bout, his life, and the wars in Africa, the wars in the Middle East, the wars in Eastern Europe, right, in South America. I mean, Viktor Bout with an elaborate DEA sting that took months to plan, right? Months to plan. They started in Curacao. They couldn't even use agents. They had to use cooperators, informants, right? And then because his circle is so tight to get in there, they would meet later in Romania. They would meet in other European countries where he felt comfortable enough, where it appears, when I read the affidavit, they had inside FARC guys who were cooperating with the government. Because in an affidavit, he says, circle the picture. I have high-ranking FARC members here. Circle the ones you guys are. And I guess they were there. And guess what? A few weeks later, he meets with them in Bangkok and recorded meetings out there talking about what kind of weapons he's going to apply to the FARC, which if you also don't know, is a narco-terrorist group at the time that was in Colombia, right? They're at war with the United States. And he said, hey, they brought to attention, hey, we're going to use these weapons against Americans. And he had no problems, no issues. It was part of the conspiracy. Eventually, he was indicted upon and convicted, and he was sentenced to kill Americans in South America, right? Military agents, whoever was out there. He said, the enemy of yours is the enemy of mine. His words. So now Biden is releasing an enemy of ours, clear and present danger, back to Russia. What do you think he's going to do? This guy's worth, they're saying tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in assets around the world. Putin is going to reward this guy because allegedly he didn't cooperate. He sat in that cell in isolation in Marion, Illinois, right? And the only two things he had in his cell, according to what I was reading, was a picture of Putin, right, and agreement in Putin's invasion of Ukraine.
One of the most dangerous man on the planet, Viktor Bout.
What do you think Putin's going to do? He's going to have a parade for this guy.
That's right.
When he goes back, he's going to have a parade.
Released by a completely inept president who clearly is going through some form of mental decline. And I pray for him in his mental decline, but he's putting Americans in danger. I understand Brittany Griner needed to be returned to the United States. I get it. Not for this guy. Not for this guy.
And if you ever were going to do something like this, it would have to be every American that's there falsely arrested, right? Not one for one. I mean, really? I mean, this guy, probably get 30 Americans for one of his. This is probably the worst prisoner exchange in U.S. history.
That's right.
The worst prisoner exchange.
I'd like to welcome some of our guests that we invited over here, like Bruno. I see you, Bruno. Thank you. Bill Stacks, thank you so much. Ray J, you and Sean Atwood, man. Look me up. I'll be ready to come on your show whenever you guys ready again. Once again, yes. Bill Stacks. We have Rob Stover pop in here for a minute. Guys, pose any questions you want. Give us your comments, your feelings on this. This president just released a mass murderer, one of the biggest arms traffickers in the history of the world, who was like best friends with Putin, KGB, GRU, old-time Soviet guy who is just doing nothing but about he arms both sides of conflicts in Africa, all over the world.
He does. I mean, and for Paul Whelan not to be included in this, I mean, if you're going to do something like this, at least include the former Marine who's been set up for espionage. I mean, all these guys, if you're an American, do not go to Russia. This was a master ploy by Putin. He's been planning this for years because remember, he was convicted in 2011, right? And Putin has been doing this for years because not only is he probably a Russian asset, he's probably still Russian intelligence. And he was afraid what was going to come out of there, right? And he was doing everything he could. This was a master chess move by Putin against this administration to get his guy out. And it worked. And this guy gave in because he finally got the right person. He said, I got a Marine that didn't work. I've got these other people that this didn't work. But he got a black female athlete, very popular, right? Who's liberal, right? That fits what they like for this administration, right? Checks all the boxes. And look what happened. He caved in. And that press release, that press conference he had, he was stuttering and having the hardest time I've ever seen. He couldn't even get the words out. I mean, it was really a horrific decision, probably the worst decision up there with Afghanistan and everything else he's done out there.
We have somebody made a comment here which goes against what most Americans believe, but I appreciate and I respect your input, Robert. He says, what if it was your daughter? Well, like I said, I agree. I think she was over sentenced, but she smuggled hash oil into a country where it's illegal, where homosexuality is illegal. Everything she's into is illegal. She knew the consequences.
And we're at war with this country.
That's right.
Through Ukraine. So if you're an American, it's probably smart not to go out there because he'll do it again and there's probably other Russian assets that we have incarcerated, other countries do it. He's going to be doing the same. This is a ploy he's been doing for a while. And it's not the first exchange. We had other exchanges also that are controversial with this with Putin also, and this administration agreeing with it also. So this is probably up there, one of the worst, but not the merchant of death. Not what it took to get this guy. Not all the years of what he's done with the conflicts and the murders. I mean, just the problem that they had with Liberia and Sierra Leone, the blood diamonds, him getting paid with and Charles Taylor. Charles Taylor is sitting 50 years in The Hague when he was convicted by the ICC, the International Criminal Court, right? He would have been done from here, and he would have gone to The Hague with him. So he would have gone. He would never have seen the light of day. He would have finished his time and then done more. And Putin knows maybe he would have finally broken. And he probably came close to getting broken, extremely close. But remember, former KGB guys stick together. And both of them still have the same mentality after the collapse of the Soviet Union, right? They stuff. So, horrible situation there. There's no way. I mean, Brittany Griner made a decision there to go on her own. Obviously, she brought the stuff in there, but this administration let him out. It's a huge disaster. While
leaving Paul Whelan in there. Paul Whelan, we support you and your family and all the other American heroes that are there. Again, he had $80,000 stolen from him. He was attending a friend's wedding in Russia.
That's what I read. Yeah, former Marine.
And the customs people stole his cash. And when he made it, a report of it, they charged him with espionage. So this man has already been proven innocent, yet he's still rotting over there, and they won't exchange him. So I don't know what Biden is thinking. I would like you to read an excerpt from your
Oh yeah,
book
sure.
that you just wrote a book 4 months ago about this, and
Yeah,
we'd love to have
Victor
you.
Bout. I've done this. I've done your show. I've done some other shows too. I'll give a shout out to Gary Jenkins, great guy, retired law enforcement from Kansas City Police Department. I've done a few of his shows also. I did it with him 4 months ago. That's also out there, and we discussed that too. Should there be exchange for Victor Bout and Brittany Griner? And then I was like, heck no, that was 4 months ago, right, William?
Right.
And look, I really never thought that Biden would make this decision. I think he got a lot of pressure from people, but not fully understand the scope and the danger of national security and what he's going to go back to, right? You think he's access to millions of dollars, tens of hundreds of millions? He's going to just go back and hide somewhere in Russia? No, he's going to go in some other country and he's going back at it again. And by this time, you'll never see him in a sting like this again. This was once in a lifetime pulled off. It was truly an amazing, elaborate scheme that brought him in. So
for the people that are joining this chat late, we have Ignacio Esteban on, retired ATF agent, worked with the Justice Department. He has an insights, possibly even inside information to how these investigations go down and sting operations. And I do know, just from media accounts, and I follow this very closely. Victor Bout, or Boot, however you pronounce it.
Victor Bout, yeah.
He was the merchant of death. He supplied arms to both sides of conflicts. He works with Putin. He's an independent guy who, when the Soviet Union fell, got a hold of all these weapons, was allowed to have access to all the extra weapons and sold them all over the world, including to people who intended to kill Americans and stated so in recorded conversations. He knew what he was doing. Biden just freed him today for a basketball player. So what is wrong with this administration? I have no clue what's going on here. And
remember the other book we talked about in the other show, Joe Biden, one and done. This just adds to it, right? Afghanistan, disgraceful exit of Afghanistan. The death of those military personnel were in his hands. You never had the Taliban do secure like that and exit that way. And what was it, 13 were murdered with the bombings, all the Afghan citizens. It's just high inflation. It's just one thing after another. This really is a really bad decision. Like I said, probably the worst. And I wrote this book, like I said, four months ago. It was very topical then. I write short books, as you know. I've written quite a few of these. 56 actually now, Bill. 56 now and counting. I think I would like to eventually, maybe, I'm not going to do 50. I did 50 in 1 year. I'm not sure if I'll be able to do another 50 because I'm getting really busy with all these shows and other things I'm working on, other projects. But I am going to read this expert here for you. So this is from chapter 5. This is Victor Bout, the world's most notorious arms dealer. I imagine we're going to put the link on it for the book, and we're going to show it also, right?
Yes, absolutely. We're going to have his books, Ignacio's books, in the link, and these books are free, by the way. So you go on, click the link, you'll get these books for free.
If you're a Kindle Unlimited subscriber, if not, the books are like I said, $5 or $6. They're not expensive, at all. And if in my longest book, you can see the poster behind me. It's my about my autobiography, ATF Undercover. You can see that there. It's a great read about me and my background. So let me read you this here. All right, this is chapter 5, and this is again Victor Bout, the world's most notorious arms dealer. U.S.-Russian relations. The complex operation by U.S. authorities around the world to arrest Victor Bout obviously stunned Moscow and has been trying for years to have him released from U.S. incarceration, which they have. Putin has entered into a Cold War with the United States and is using different tactics to get Russian nationals released from foreign prisons. Yeah, this is not the first time he's done this. Remember that. He's done this before.
Right.
The Biden administration will be making a major error exchanging Bout for any Americans that have been falsely arrested, because that's just going to encourage that kind of behavior. There have been many factors driving these arrests, including the war in Ukraine, where the United States has been applying billions of dollars in arms to aid the Ukrainians. This prisoner exchange will only empower Putin and encourage his regime to do more of the same in the future. Putin and Bout are one and the same, vicious and ruthless, and have no remorse for their heinous criminal actions. Victor Bout will go in history as the most notorious international arms trafficker in the world, causing havoc to various continents, overcoming weapons embargoes while supplying farms to rebels and tyrants in civil war conflicts. His legacy is one of death and mayhem and needs to remain incarcerated, respecting the rule of law. If not, the merchant of death will continue his reign of terror and regain his title, Lord of War.
What?
Yes.
Wow. Well, like I said to my audience, you've written this book several months ago, and exactly what you predicted would happen happened.
Yeah.
This administration doesn't care for national security, for the safety of Americans, and is pandering to these dictators. I think we learned with Chamberlain the appeasement of dictators and tyrants, and what happened with Hitler never works. You cannot appease a bully. You cannot appease a tyrant. You cannot give them what they want, ever.
They don't respect weakness.
They don't respect weakness. They walk all over.
Biden is really weak right now, extremely weak.
He's
coming across very, and you can see also the CCP is doing the same thing to him too. So I mean, this is good. I've like I said, I read the book on Joe Biden. I've done political books also on Putin's tyranny. I've described the historical problems what Putin has done to his own people, right? To reporters, to dissidents, anybody, to Ukraine. I predicted his invasion of Ukraine before it happened in my book. So these are actions that have been going on, and also the horror of the CCP and this administration in Afghanistan. And the hits just keep on coming with him. And it's going to be a rough 2 more years. The Republicans are taking the House, right? Hopefully they can get their speaker elected. They can really shut him down. Because without the House, he gets nothing accomplished. So they got to get on board, the Republicans, and get Kevin McCarthy and get him elected. I know they have some issues with the far right, but everybody gets on board, because the worst is if they put someone else in there with the Democrat side. They need the speaker. They have the majority. If not, the Republicans will lose all respect by the American people. They can't get this going.
We have a question on screen from one of our visitors, Robert Stover, who we met the other day.
Yeah.
What's your input on that question there? Do you think they bugged him or put a tracker in his food so that it would be inside of him, the way states or whatever can keep track of where his whereabouts? I'm sure with technology these days anything's possible, but
I don't know if they can do it in his food, but obviously they got to keep a track of him. They got to see what he's up to. The Merchant of Death is back at it. The Lord of War. That's what he is. The Lord of War. And you think he's going to walk away from his billions? He made billions. He'll be smarter this time and use more technology. He's learned from this. I mean, this sting was unbelievable.
Right. This is a comment from Mary Bass, Dr. Mary Bass, my beautiful fiance. So Mary says she's traveled abroad extensively. She's always made sure beforehand that she understands the laws and obeys the laws and customs of the countries that she visits. She never arrogantly expects leniency. And I know her. I wish she wouldn't break any laws. But
that's true. I think ignorance of the law is no excuse, right?
Yes. And much as we believe in this country, okay, it's legalized, it's all legal now. Well, I don't think hash is. Is hash legal in this country? I'm not sure.
I don't know. She's claimed there was some medical reason for it. I'm not sure her background on that, but she's a professional basketball player. Your country's at war pretty much with Putin. You better be squeaky clean, right? You better be squeaky clean. In fact, I wouldn't even play basketball. She was very popular. She played her 6-7 seasons. I would have been like, you know what? I'm done. And look what happened. And plays the cost. But my thing is, why her and not Paul Whelan, right?
Right.
That's something we have to look into.
We have a comment from Ray J. Ray J, I know, is affiliated with Sean Atwood Unleashed. He's a really good guy.
Okay.
But, it's a lot of opinions about our own intelligence agencies. So I'm assuming he's talking about Viktor Bout. So most dangerous after the CIA? Question to you, I guess. Or if you can clarify that, Ray J, thank you for posing it. We love having you on the show.
Yeah.
Jason, any thoughts about Canada exchanging prisoners with Russia? Example, the 2 Pauls. Yeah. I'm not familiar with that case. Are you?
I heard that also. This is, like I said, this is part of the tactic of Putin. It's not just with the Americans. It's with the Canadians, the Europeans. Anytime he has Russians which are loyal or important, sensitive to him, right? He'll do this all the time. So any ally of the United States, NATO ally, Canadians, Australians, be careful of going to Russia. He's going to put you in the can when he can, and he'll use you if there's somebody he wants to get out. This is a very good chess move, very good ploy. The Russians are also very good at chess. This is a master chess move he just did.
Putin was just talking about the risk of nuclear war increasing just a day or two ago because he's losing Ukraine. They're putting up a good fight, whatever side you agree with, and things come out about Zelensky, things come out about Putin historically. So, whose
he's
side?
Losing the war badly. He's losing the war badly.
He's losing badly. His generals and all that are getting killed on the battlefield.
Unprecedented high-ranking officers getting killed. Unbelievable.
Right.
Unbelievable.
they have the technology to identify exactly where they are, and they're targeting them.
Well, the U.S. Obviously it's all out there. Nothing I'm saying that's not out there, but U.S. intelligence is helping the Ukrainians big time. We're the ones helping them locate, and just recently they just attacked their airfields in Russia, right? With drone attacks. It's going to get closer to Moscow. There's no doubt this war is going to get close to Moscow.
So a day or two after he once again threatens nuclear war is a good time to give him back one of his top arms movers and assets that
KGB.
can start a war in Africa and arm both sides of the same conflict, and create a diversion so Putin can get away with more mass murders and corruption.
Right. Well, like you said, Putin rewards loyalty, right? That's what he likes, loyalists. And he didn't talk. So he did a lot of things. And of course, not just as an asset, I think he's probably still a Russian intelligence, right? Yeah. And he wanted him out. He wanted him out at any cost. And I think when he saw the opportunity with Brittany Griner and the boxes she checked, right? Celebrity, athlete, she's liberal, right? She's part of Biden. She's going to get the pressure in that country to get her released. I can get my guy out. And I thought he played this perfectly. He played this perfectly. The
problem is him and some of the Dems are so known and so being exposed for pandering to a certain demographic for votes, but never doing anything meaningful for them. I think there's a lot of them are starting to catch on and vote Republican. Man, I was in prison years ago, for 18 years for nonviolent crimes. Guys always loved the Democrats, but when Trump got in, man, they loved the Republicans because he gave releasing prisoners a second chance. He helped them get jobs. He pardoned a lot of people in the federal system where he had the authority to do so. But his programs were actually helping people. Gas prices were low. All these great things were going on in society. Democrats back in swearing they're going to help everybody and follow through on essentially nothing. Yep. Didn't Biden just go to the border 2 days ago, 100 and something miles from the border, a 15-minute trip by helicopter? 19 federal agents have committed suicide because they're seeing dead babies in the river. They're rescuing people that are coming across illegally.
You got to finish the wall. You have to finish the wall.
Trump had it stopped on the other side and was processing in eligible people. He was still letting them in, but he wasn't allowing them to take that dangerous trip. Biden doesn't care if they drown and die in the water.
No, he lets everybody come in. You got to finish the wall. You got to find all the tunnels, because it's not just the wall. It's not just and there's tons of underground tunnels that we have to find them all. We got to use the technology. We got to be smart. Manpower, yes. 21st century technology, yes. Right. We got to use the drones. We got to use more satellites. And on top of that, we've got to get all the overstays. So it's a very complex issue, but there's a lot of things you got to do. You can't say, oh, you know what? It's only so many people come through the border, but well, you know what? You got to start somewhere. You got to seal the border first. I think most of us, I mentioned before in your show, have fences around property. We need a big fence around ours. That's for sure. And that needs to be put right there. So those are, if you like what we're saying here, look at the book, look at our previous shows. I think that was a great show we did. It was very popular on YouTube, on Rumble. I think we have almost 8,000 views on Rumble on our first show we did. Extremely popular. I mean, we've hit a lot of good stuff here. We'll talk about this. We're doing these shows. I think if you like it, pass it around. You know what everybody should do? Everybody should criticize and write, which I'm going to do it, to your local representative, to your senator, to the president, and said this was a bad decision. This was a huge mistake. You endanger our lives and the world. You know what? Everybody should be outraged and do something about it. Be proactive about this.
Right. And I want to announce also, fair use. If we use any media clips, fair use. This is a informational program, news and educational purposes. We may throw some clips up with this.
This is educational.
With this video. This is live right now, but it will be going out across all platforms and on my podcast. And we have a clarification from Ray J. It's up on the screen. So Ray J, don't forget, with Shannon Atwood, they look at both sides of things, the conspiracy stuff, the true stuff, with the really eye to getting to the truth. They just want people to make the decisions for themselves. Excuse me. So he's saying, that CIA does have a history of arms deals. What's your feeling on that?
Yeah, I mean,
excuse me.
Yeah, there could be some issues there with arming, but again, you want to support the side, let's say against the Soviet Union at the time, right? We're hoping Afghanistan arm them to overthrow the Soviet Union, right? So sometimes the good guys become our enemies, and some of the enemy become good guys. So it happens sometimes. But this guy, it took law enforcement a while to get him, right? He was dangerous. Look at the work. So pretty much what this is. This is a slap to the face to the agents that risked their lives, the cases that will work, the risks that were taken, right? And letting this guy go and not finish his time. And to the process, and to the prosecutors,
Absolutely.
and everybody who worked the case, the jury who deliberated, everybody who was part of this, it's a slap to their face, not letting him just, and he should be going to The Hague, ICC, International Criminal Court, to finish more time. He should never have been a free man. He went too long, causing too much death, too much problem, overcoming international embargoes, right? Leading to deaths. I mean, empowering Charles Taylor, probably one of the worst warlords in the history of Africa, right? Look at that, Lord of War. If you haven't seen, look at the documentaries about him.
Right.
With blood diamonds, the massacres. These guys went from using machetes to using AK-47s and worse, right? That's
so about. It's so rare to catch one of these people, and here he is, captured finally and released by a president who's clearly not in his right mind. Now, we do have a video clip that we'd like to play, a news clip real quick. Again, fair use based upon educational media and news gathering.
Tolerable circumstances. Brittany will soon be back in the arms of her loved ones, and she should have been there all along. This is a day we've worked toward for a long time. We never stopped pushing for her release. It took painstaking and intense negotiations, and I want to thank all the hardworking public servants across my administration who worked tirelessly to secure her release. I also want to thank the UAE for helping us facilitate Brittany's return, because that's where she landed. These past few months have been hell for Brittany and for Charlie and her entire family and all her teammates back home. People all across the country have learned about Brittany's story, advocated for her release, stood with her throughout this terrible ordeal. And I know that support meant a lot to her family. I'm glad to be able to say that Brittany's in good spirits. She's relieved of finally be heading home. And the fact remains that she's lost months of her life, experienced a needless trauma, and she deserves space, privacy, and time with her loved ones to recover and heal from her time being wrongfully detained. Brittany is an incomparable athlete, a two-time Olympic gold medalist for Team USA. She endured mistreatment and a show trial in Russia with characteristic grit and incredible dignity. She represents the best about America. It is across the board, everything about her. She wrote to me back in July. She didn't ask for special treatment, even though we've been working on a release from the day one. She requested a simple quote, "Please don't forget about me and the other American detainees. Please do all you can to bring us home." We never forgot about Brittany. We've not forgotten about Paul Whelan, who's been unjustly detained in Russia for years. This was not a choice of which American to bring home.
Yeah, it was.
Exactly.
It was a choice. You bring back the guy former Marine, or person probably who's a Democrat.
Right. Okay. So we've put this out as soon as possible to get ahead of this, because actually my guest has been ahead of this. He's a recent former member of federal law enforcement, and grateful he was on the show here. Now, I would love for you to maybe, if you know any more details about the activities that Viktor Bout was involved with prior to his arrest. I don't have details, but I know the FARC, he was supplying a terrorist organization.
Yeah, I mean, what I read, with the, in 2008, I was with ATF and Department of Justice. And, obviously this guy had a reputation then. And I think everybody saw Lord of War. Everybody knew about him. They researched him. If you don't know much about him, look at his documentaries and stuff. But when I started writing the book, I did some more digging. And it was fascinating how they were able to get their claws into him, right? I mean, this guy was involved in, like I said, trafficking, not just in Africa, the Middle East, in Europe. I mean, in Israel, Hezbollah. I mean, he was involved in any conflict that was make money. He would go. South America now with the FARC, and they needed people who were insiders, what appeared to be guys who were FARC members, high-ranking FARC members, right? Who were able to work out the deal and get him to show up eventually in Bangkok. But stuff what they said to him was unbelievable. That they're going to be used. And it wasn't just a few weapons. It was you're talking about hundreds and thousands and millions of weapons that were going to be used by the FARC to go against American military in Colombia, right, in the region, right. That would be killed against people, and he had no qualms, no issues with it at all, no problems using it at all. So this is a bad guy that should never been out for sure. 25 years. I mean, let the guy finish. Again, it's a slap to the face of the agents who worked the cases, right? Slap to their face. They couldn't finish. I mean, they did the right job, and he was convicted. Let him do his time, not for her. My whole thing when I saw it was like, this one exchange for one doesn't cut it. I mean, he's up here. She was set up. It makes him look like a sucker. It makes Biden look like a sucker. I hate to say it in front of the world. What a poor decision that was for this administration. Because, okay, fine. She's a big league, but you're just an example to keep on doing this kind of behavior over and over. You can do it in Canada. You're going to do it over here. You know what? We're going to arrest your people, falsely arrest them, because this is what this is what Putin does. Because they're good Russian people. This is what Putin does. He is former KGB. He is a tyrant. He is a dictator. He's a thug. He's a war criminal. He is a war criminal. And this is what criminals do. They act like this. And this is what you're getting with Biden. I mean, well, Biden is a sucker, and Putin played him. He played his hand beautifully in a master chess move, which makes him look. And then he's smiling like he did something good. No, you got played. You got played in front of the world. And that's what we're looking at from. Because Viktor Bout is going to go right back to business.
That's right.
Right back to business.
We have a guest, Ray J, again. Again, he's, in the loop with both sides of the story. He's over in Europe. And he says that, Putin's never threatened nuclear use, watch the speeches, but they have other evidence that he did. And so he says concretely and conclusively that he believes that this is nothing more than 100% propaganda war, all these different tactics. Now, last night I interviewed one of my best friends, my mentor, my attorney, Peter Tickton. He's an attorney in South Florida. Now, Peter is also representing Donald Trump in litigation against Hillary Clinton. Now, Peter and I had a long conversation about this, and he says, please learn. He said, don't worry about what you see in the news, because we all know there's fake news and propaganda and different sides to every story and different spin for different agendas. He said, go as if you're looking at the world, from space and see the whole picture and the trends and what's playing out. There's a bigger purpose behind everything that's going on. And it's not exactly what's being presented to you on both sides. There's accurate news reporting and there's not. And everybody has their own spin and their own agenda.
That's why you got to do your own digging. That's one thing I do. Exactly. I want evidence. I want fact. If there's no evidence to support it, I don't believe it. And that applies to everything. I know I got some pushback about the election on some other shows and what have you, but there's no evidence. I mean, when you had the former attorney general that he selected, Bill Barr, right? That was his guy he picked, and he said there's no there. There's nothing there. And he resigns. And other cabinet member, Mike Pence, look what he's saying now. The president pretty much wants to suspend or terminate the Constitution, right? These are people who are credible. These are people who have done things. And he was a loyalist. I mean, I think he was better than any vice president you could expect. And it was fair. And he was a loyalist.
I think you're talking about maybe,
which is fine. But I just ask people, listen to the facts, what's going out there. Don't get conspired. There's so many conspiracies here. Alex Jones, perfect example, right? A lot of the stuff going out there with him. He just got sued in defamation. Right. And he lost a major suit for what he said in Sandy Hook that didn't happen. Of course it happened. Of course it happened.
Well, some people just get on here and make up things to try to get views or followers or whatever. I don't know who Alex Jones is. I was in prison. We don't get YouTube and all that in prison. But I did recently hear about some of the stuff going on with him. But again, Peter said, look at the big picture. There's way more to it than you're ever going to be told in the headlines. And as far as the elections, he did address that, because I asked him some personal things about Trump, which you guys will see on my interview that's going to be released in about a day. So in-depth, inside stuff about Donald Trump that's never been released before. And one of the things he did say was that they have video. Now, there might not be widespread, maybe organized election fraud, but they literally have videos that exist that have been suppressed, but the attorneys and the other people have them, of people literally feeding the same ballots into the machine somehow, or recounting the same Democratic ballots over and over again. There's videos of suitcases and boxes full of these being refed into counting machines somehow or counted twice for Democrats during the presidential election. Yeah. So this is right from the horse's mouth, people that have viewed this material.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I know that the Barr made a statement and he resigned over this. That's how, that was his guy. He came in to help, remember, with Black Lives Matter, with all the problems that were going on. And for him to say at the end, you know what? And he was a conservative, just like Dick Cheney, just like, it is an issue within the Republican Party, right? I've been a Republican since I can remember. And I know a lot of people are not happy where they see what Trump has done to this country, to the Republican Party. It's a grand old party, and he feels it's being shredded. That's my opinion. That's what I put out there. That's what I believe, what I've seen. I didn't vote for him, and for twice I did write-ins, Marco Rubio and Mitt Romney, and I would never vote for that guy. That was my opinion. And I wrote books about it. And the only guy I put in my book that I thought that Joe Biden could beat will be Trump if he was to get the nomination. Because the same forces that came together in 2020 will come again and beat him. Because I know the Republicans who voted for Biden, just like they're Reagan Democrats, right? They're Biden Republicans. Who's anybody, hashtag but Trump. And they're not going to vote. And they'll come again. And they will come again. He just hopefully, I wonder what your guest said yesterday about the Trump organizations being convicted for making tax fraud, right?
Right. Yeah, I asked him about that too. You'll see his answer on that interview coming up here in a day or two. So now, somebody I met recently,
right here,
Mufasa Lion,
yeah,
is an incredible comedian. Look him up on Facebook, YouTube. Shout out. I met him recently when I did a television interview about 3 weeks ago. He was a guest on the same show, and we got to know each other. I told him my backstory. I was incarcerated 18 years. He did 10 years in the Georgia system. I think he's been out about 20 years now, got his life together, built himself a beautiful family, and he's become a good friend. So I asked you guys to support him, and even he agrees, wasn't an even trade.
No, that's a horrific trade. There should never been any trade. This guy, Viktor Bout, doesn't get out. Viktor Bout spends the rest of his life in prison. Remember, Matt, look at all the weapons he's put in there, the hands of these bad people that have killed innocent people. Remember that. He's part of a conspiracy that leads to mass murders, mass shootings, right? That's what he's a part of. He's part of mass conspiracies.
Right.
People. So there's no way he should have been executed in one of these countries. He should have been tried and executed. He shouldn't be alive, but he is. And now he's going back at it again. And here we go all over again with this guy. And Putin will probably have a parade for it. Mark my words, Putin is going to make a big thing out of this. Mark, you heard it here first. There's going to be a big thing with Putin in Moscow, in the Kremlin, with Viktor Bout, 2 KGB guys getting together and saying, I got you out. You were loyal to me. Back to business. And you know what? Do what you can to help our guys against the Ukrainians, against the Baltics, and anywhere else we cause the Americans some headaches for what happened here. Wherever we can stir the pot some more, go arm the other guys just to cause some headaches.
That's exactly right. And Mufasa, thank you for your next comment there. She played basketball in Russia during the off season. Nobody gets to go to another country and not understand the rules or the consequences. And I agree. She probably should have. She got too much time. She probably should have been sent back. But she did what she did. And in no ways did they even exchange for a mass murder.
Bill, if she was from another country, Mexican or something, do you think she would get this? Would have been she got a slap on the wrist, right?
Sent back home.
That's it. No, he knew what he had. He had it. They dropped a gold mine on him. He said, "Oh my God, I'm going to play him like a fiddle, right? Play him like a drum," and that's what he did. He played him.
Yep.
He knew there'd be enough pressure they would have to do a release. My thing, if you're going to give in like that, you should have demanded Paul Whelan also be entering that exchange because that's not right.
Yep. And Mufasa says Putin is going to have a celebration and show the middle finger to America. There you go. He's right.
He won't. No, it's going to be a big thing in the Kremlin. This is a huge win for him. Huge loss for the president because it's a setup. It was a bogus charge. I mean, I worked for customs before ATF, right? Right. And you get a little bit of a personal use. You seize it right there. You give them a fine maybe. Or you deport them. If they're American, they stay, but you give them a fine. This is absolutely 9 years. This is bogus. This is a setup. This is unacceptable.
I will tell you that the comment I just put up was from Laura Leon Coolio. She works with the Justice Department currently with the U.S. Attorney's Office out in California. She's an investigator, an accountant, and she's got many contacts in law enforcement. She's just commenting that she's going to ask somebody about the border wall as well. So, Ignacio, I would like to wrap this up so we can get it out across all platforms. We're going to have you on in a few days on the other topics we discussed.
Yeah.
Biden will be declared a hero for getting her released. Absolutely. He's going to get a bunch of votes he didn't earn.
He's not a hero in my book, that's for sure. And a lot of people I know.
That's right.
He's not a hero. That guy is nothing but a hero.
Not in mine either.
He's become more zero now.
Respectfully, Ray J, not in mine either, because he's just undermining our country left and right. All right. Thank you. Say hello to Sean Atwood. We pray for the victims of this Viktor Bout all over the world. In Africa, millions have lost their lives because of this guy. You know, I don't even know where else he's dealt weapons. These are so many secrets going on that
all over the world, all over from Middle East to Eastern Europe. If it's all in my book, if you like what we talked about, we'll put a link on it. Viktor Bout, the world's most notorious arms dealer.
That's right.
He was locked up, and now he's a free man. The Lord of War. Have you ever seen that movie, Nicolas Cage? Good movie, good documentaries out there. Check them out. Big thing, big problems for us in the world.
Ignacio has big things coming up with some high-powered producers in London, by the way.
I hope so. RMC. Yeah, shout out to Stephen Gillen also. We
That's
have meetings going on with that. The poster you see behind me, ATF Undercover. I just finished the screenplay for a TV pilot. We're hoping to get it pitched and we'll get it green lighted. And I think it'll be it's a pretty good read. So if you want to read my book, ATF Undercover, you get a good idea what this series will be about.
It's all in my description. Links right to his books. Most of them are free. Ray J, if you want to have him on Atwood's show, he's a very accommodating guest. He's a wonderful guy.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Bill.
Ignacio.
And check out our old shows. Go to Rumble and check. I mean, we've had some great shows. Bill and I, check them out. They're great shows we've done. Check them all out and enjoy them.
Cheers, Ray J. Okay, mind of I'll never vote for Biden again. This is Mufasa Line. He's a wonderful. He's a black guy and he's a nice guy and he's a freaking funny comedian, and so he's trying to get, I guess, the black and the homosexual vote by doing what he did today. But like I said, in prison, everybody's starting to even see the light that the Democrats will say one thing, do exactly the other, and never give any meaningful help at all to anybody. Yeah. So he's saying he'll never vote for Biden again or anyone who sends trillions of dollars to another country and not look out for the veterans who fought and died for this one. And with that, we're going to leave it on that note. Thank you, Mufasa, for that comment.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you, Bill.
Ignacio, check out my fans on this page, especially Mufasa Lion, Ignacio, Esteban. Thank you, everybody, for chiming in. Bruno, we love you. And, God bless America. This is the way I feel. I did time, but I don't hate law enforcement, man. I put myself in the mess.
I appreciate that.
Turn my life around. Now it's all about the victims. Thank you for joining William Steele True Crime. Hit like and subscribe, please, before I forget that part.
All right, guys. Thank you.
All right, Ignacio. God bless.
God bless you.